Hi, Bob.
Hey, Zax.
So we are covering episode 7 of Creeped Out, and it is called Shed No Fear.
Yep.
Okay, well.
I mean, I genuinely tried to think of something more interesting to say, but this is such a bad episode.
It is very, very dull. I think there's a lot to cover in this, but I think our main issues kind of come when we get a little bit further in. So just for some context, I'm going to dive right into the story.
Yeah, let's just go in.
Real quick. This was, I think, even though it was the most boring episode, this was the funniest Curious sighting ever because he's just hiding in the back of a bus and he just zooms and he's just like, hey guys, I'm still on the bus. No one checked me on the roster. No one knows that I'm here. I'm curious. Bye.
I mean, he's the Curious.
It was, I don't know why, but something about seeing his big dumb mask face there was really funny to me.
Yeah, and this was the first time I looked at the Curious and thought, he might be a little bit spookier if he just didn't have a mouth, because I think that's what makes him look so silly to me.
Yeah, but until then he's been so nothing, but this is the first time they're giving the Curious a bit of pizzazz. So we open with our main character, nerdy guy, and I'm sure he has a name. Don't bother telling me it. I won't remember it. Not gonna try to.
I can tell you his name right now.
I just said don't.
His name's Greg.
Fine. Anyway, nerdy kid is doing this assignment, and he is. I don't know what this class is, but
I have no idea what the teacher's supposed to be teaching. But we see our main character standing in front of the class, and he's giving a presentation about friendship, which is already a big red flag to me because it's like,
no, not just friendship.
What could you possibly be learning where friendship is like what the lessons are?
This was the think tank. This classroom is responsible for My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
He's in middle school.
Okay, but it's not just friendship they're talking about. They are talking about male best friendship.
Yeah, that was a little bit weird. He lists off a couple of... He says something like, throughout history, there have been many examples of male friendship. And then he lists off pairs of people like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. And I'm like...
Yeah, like...
Why did you specify male?
Now, granted, I can't really...
It has no bearing on the rest of the episode, by the way.
Yeah, I can't think of any historical lady friendships off the top of my head, I guess. Like, I don't really... Like, I remember, like, female figures, but I don't really remember their bestie. So, yeah, I guess so. But I don't know what your point is. Anyway, after he makes his presentation, he's about to break out a ukulele, which I kind of just was curious where he was even going. Because the classroom, this football kid, Kelsey, is already like, loser, you're doing your homework, lame-o. So... If you're going to break out the ukulele in front of that kid, like, I kind of want to see what you got, because you're probably pretty, like, confident in it.
You're either really confident, or you're terrible at reading the room. And amazingly, this kid manages to be both.
Yeah. So, the teacher's just like, I'm just going to give you the A. Please sit down
Please sit down. He's like, but I'm not done. He's like, you're done. And he holds his hand out. And I thought the kid was going to quite reasonably hand over his school assignment that he's reading off of for his paper, hand it over to the teacher. No, the teacher takes his ukulele, and the kid goes back to sit down with the paper. And I'm wondering, how are you supposed to grade this assignment if you took his ukulele instead of the paper he wrote?
I know it's not because they open textbooks right after to do something, but what if it was like, like instrument building class and he was like, had to grade like the integrity of the ukulele, but for some reason this kid just also did a friend. because we know why he picked male best friendship as a topic, because he used to be best friends with this kid Dave,
who's also in the class,
and
and he's
who
sitting
looked
there.
like looking real uncomfortable because like it's basically like that thing that they do sometimes where you're talking clearly to somebody in the room, but it's
I don't
addressed.
want to name names, but and then you just like very obviously direct your comments directly at one person.
Yeah,
But
and
okay, can I just really like you kind of skipped over this, and I really want to circle back on this to
okay.
draw attention to how freaking weird it is that the character is giving this nerdy kid is giving a presentation about friendship, which is a bizarre thing to talk about in a school project. And then he's about to sing a song. The teacher takes his ukulele, and then the teacher says, "All right, go sit down." They sit down, and without batting an eye, the teacher says, "All right, flip to this page. We're going to talk about this totally unrelated thing." And I'm like, what was the lesson plan for today? One student gives one presentation, and we immediately go to lecture? How does this work? What is the teaching,
Yeah.
like, what is your, like, seriously, what is your lesson plan for today? Because you did not even pivot. You just picked up and moved to a whole new topic.
Well, maybe I don't know how long school has been going on because maybe all the other kids presented. He just happened to be the last one. The reason they
And I
say
mean,
that,
I would understand that if he had said anything like, well, that's enough of presentations, or like, I'm glad we got through all our presentations, I will have your grades at this. No, he doesn't say any transitional phrases. Nothing. He just, like, the kid goes, while he's sitting down, he's like, everybody open up your textbooks, we're going to talk about this thing.
well, the only reason I'm like not like totally certain on what the schedule is because after this awkward class,
So awk.
he nerdy boy, he goes to sit under a tree and he fondly looks over the yearbook where we see that kid who he
The idea that somebody would fondly look at a yearbook in any context is bizarre to me.
so him and this kid Dave,
I believe the last time I opened any yearbook was the last time anyone signed a yearbook of mine.
yeah,
The moment the last signature went in, the book closed and was never opened again.
yeah,
There could be pressed leaves in there, and no one would ever find it.
yeah.
But he's looking through his yearbook and he's seeing Science Club. And there's a picture of him and his friend, Dave Stevens, who for the first 10 minutes of the episode gets called Stevens, and then for the rest of the episode gets called Dave, which is a little bit weird. But he's,
Well, I guess it's to show
the two of them are, show what? It's the same characters calling him Stevens and then calling him Dave.
Well, he's Dave to Nerdy Boy. He's Stevens to the football boys
The nerdy boy also calls him Stevens at the beginning of the episode.
because he accepted his new identity. But once he starts acting like his old self again, he's back to being good old Dave.
I guess. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyways, he's looking at this picture. It's Stevens and Nerdy Boy, and they've made something, and I swear it looks like some kind of space gun that they're holding. I don't know. Either way, he's fondly looking over it going like, oh man, I hope he enjoyed my presentation on male friendship. Wink, maybe. And then the football players come by, and they say some mean stuff, and you see that Dave Stevens is one of the football players. You saw it earlier, he was in a jersey or whatever, but now it's like very clearly the kid in the yearbook is one of the kids there, and he's very dismissively looking at our nerdy main character.
Well, is Kelsey the mean football guy? I guess the
By the way,
quarterback.
I don't understand how any bully can be walking around bullying people with the name Kelsey.
I mean, I've known a lot of guy Kelseys, and no one really.
I've
cares.
known. Nah, I don't. That may be a California thing because that is not common anywhere else.
Whatever.
Kelsey
So-
is not used as a genderless name. Certainly not in the 70s.
Well, anyway, I think it's Irish or something. It
Which,
doesn't. It does.
which this show, by the way, this episode is set in the 70s. I don't think we said this, but it doesn't serve a purpose.
No, it doesn't.
Like, this could quite easily have been set modern time. Nothing would have had to change.
Yeah, it's...
Like, the only thing, I guess, wardrobes would have had to change.
Wardrobes would have changed, and also they would have had to use a different filter.
Yeah, camera filter. For some reason, if you're shooting in the 70s, everything has to have the sickly yellow-green, like,
Tint.
filter over it. Tint, yeah.
Because that's something that is...
Colors were, like, back in World War I, colors hadn't been invented yet. And then little by little, we invented more colors over time. And now we're here in the present day when all the colors have been invented and no more colors can be invented.
Well, it's also kind of weird, too, because, like, shows from the 70s, like Three's Company, did not have that filter.
Well, yeah, of course.
So, like... But, like... In other shows, when they, like, go back to the 50s, everything's black and white because, like, shows in the 50s were
Did you say black and wife?
Black and white.
Black and wife sounds like the name of something. I'll let me write that down.
Okay. You do that. So
I'm going to workshop that into a really good TV show.
All right. Anyway, we'll move along. Okay, so they're like bullying him or whatever, and then after that session, they go back to the class with the same teacher.
Yeah, I don't know what class this is. Maybe it's one of those schools where it's like a shed and like one teacher for the entire school, and the school is only like 18 kids. I don't know how they have that in the middle of a city,
but
which we see them.
The football players aren't even in the class.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
Okay, so anyway, they go back in, and Dave Stevens isn't back yet. And the teacher's like, Stevens?
Wait, why is the teacher calling attendance after they come back from, like, recess?
I don't know. Can I just get through this?
Is this supposed... Wait, maybe it's supposed to be the next day or something, but they don't communicate that at all, right? It definitely seems like they're coming back from lunch or something.
I believe they're wearing the same clothes.
That's what I thought.
So unless he owns like 3 shirts, I'm pretty sure it's the same day. So then...
I guess they call attendance every 5 minutes just to make sure nobody leaves the room.
Well, if you leave the room and you come back in, we have to make sure you didn't get like kidnapped or something. Because like milk cartons and stuff were a big deal in the 70s.
Okay. Did you just say milk cartons are a big deal in the 70s?
They were a big deal in the 70s, yeah.
What a weird way to phrase that. All right, continue.
You know what I mean, right? Y'all get me. No?
You mean like missing kids on milk cartons?
Yeah, I was just
not just milk
it.
cartons. There aren't huge crowds of teenage girls screaming when a new milk carton gets announced. Like, we have Justin Bieber in this day and age, but back then they had milk cartons. It was a simpler time.
It was okay.
People were very easily amused.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right. Milk carton. Okay, so then he's like, Stevens, where are you? And outside,
Nerdy
right?
kid.
Right, yeah, right outside the window, you can clearly see Steven sort of wobbling in, like, whoa, something crazy just happened. So, nerdy kid...
he looks like he's got some stuff on him, like some leaves or something.
But he's also...
And he's headed towards the building.
Yeah.
And so our nerdy kid, like, looking out the window, goes, sir, and he points, and Stevens is, like, heading towards the back door of the classroom, which, I don't know how there's, like, a back door to the classroom that leads straight outside, but, like,
yeah,
fine. This is a very strangely laid out building, it seems like, but he, like, lets himself in the back door, and, like, when the nerdy kid's like, sir, he's coming, he's just outside, which is like, okay, fine, whatever. All the other kids are like about to get up, and the teacher's like, everybody stay seated, and I'm like, It's not
Why
that
would you?
interesting. He's outside. You were all outside 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, he's late for some reason, but he's covered in goo and everything. And the teacher's like basically just like go to the gym and change into
Yeah,
like your
get
gym.
cleaned up. Do you have a change of clothes? He's like, yeah, I got my gym clothes. He's like, okay, go get changed. Take a shower because you smell terrible. And he says, sorry, sir. I'll go do that. And he said, all right, have fun,
Okay.
Stevens.
So now I don't know what they learned. We're back outside of the class, which I feel like is such a random thing, but I guess whatever. They have like 3 sets and they're going to use them all to the fullest.
Yeah.
So now we're back outside of school and Nerdy Kid is walking and reading his comic book. And Stevens comes up and he grabs the comic book and he's like, hey, what did you think you were doing? He's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I heard you ratted me out. And again, in case you thought we just fast forwarded, no, we didn't. Literally, he was heading into the classroom.
Right.
The teacher was like, where are you? And
like
he said, oh.
Stevens approaches the building covered in whatever the goo is. Like, this is, when the kid says, outside, he's right there. They don't see each other. So, like, Stevens approaches the building, doesn't see him in the window or anything. Of his own accord, goes to the back door, which leads to the classroom where the teacher is, so presumably he thought he would see the teacher, and then when he walks in, the teacher's like, go get changed. But now, in this next scene, he's yelling at Nerdy Kid for, quote-unquote, ratting him out, even though, regardless of whether the Nerdy Kid had said he's outside, you would have come inside immediately. If anything, he got you out of trouble. For, otherwise the teacher probably would have just marked you absent immediately. Yeah. He bought you some time to come inside and make an excuse.
Yeah, he helped you. But then also he was like, I just, you look... But then he even says, you looked, kind of scared and freaked out. I was kind of worried about you. And he's like, who told you to do something so stupid? And it's like, so stupid. You came back into class. Now... It's ratting him out if they made eye contact and he shakes his head like, shh, you never
don't
saw
tell anybody.
me.
And then he still tells him. Yeah.
Yeah. That, okay. I don't,
But none of that happened.
He alerted the teacher that you were on your way. Because also, I've had this happen too where, teachers just, keep asking for kids, especially since you saw him earlier in the day.
Yeah.
So the teacher probably would have been like, Stevens, where's Stevens? Getting
does anybody know where Stevens is?
We could just speed this along and move forward. He's on his way in. We'll work it out.
Either way, they make a big deal out of it. And,
yeah.
And Stevens and the football players are like, you're a nerd. Her. Why did you rat me out? And it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And our main character goes like, oh, I'm a big loser. Can I have my comic book back? And then Steven throws him his comic book and walks away. And it's like,
yeah.
What is this scene?
And then nothing happens, but now we're back into class.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe this may be a different day, but...
I hope so. Otherwise, the school day makes no sense.
But it still seems like he's wearing the same clothes. So yeah. Anyway, so he looks outside the window and he sees Dave.
They're calling attendance again.
Yeah, calling attendance again. But this time he doesn't say anything because this time Dave comes in, looks around, turns around, and then goes back. When
you said comes in. He does not come into the classroom.
Well, he comes into view.
He comes into view from the window.
Yeah,
where he still doesn't make eye contact with anybody inside. He just approaches the building of the school, looks left, looks right, turns around 180 degrees, and walks away. And at this point, I was getting pretty annoyed because I said, why did he approach the school at all? And you said, don't worry, they explain it. And then I told you, I don't think they will explain it. And when I'm right, I will be mad at you.
I told you, and I told you then, and I stand by it. I said, I don't think they do a good job, but they do attempt to explain it.
I don't think they attempt to explain it at all. What he does is, he could just pass the school. He could just walk by the school or avoid the school or whatever. But he's coming from somewhere and going to somewhere in this scene. And in between those two things, he stops at the school, walks up to the building, looks left, looks right, sees no one, turns around and walks away. He doesn't do anything at the school. He doesn't... All he's there to do is give Nerdy Kid a chance to see him and then ask for an excuse to leave class to follow him. That's the only reason he's there, but it doesn't make any sense in universe. Either way, Nerdy Kid says to the teacher, can I go to the bathroom? Teacher goes, yeah, sure. And this is the last time we will ever see the teacher. Apparently he spends the rest of his life in the bathroom and nobody cares. Because the rest of the episode he never returns to school.
Well, hold on. Okay.
That's not really a spoiler for anything.
No, so he follows him, and we go to this house, and we see like a silhouette of a female in a rocking chair, and he's just like, "What is this madhouse I'm like walking into?"
And it's human beings inside buildings. What a crazy scene! Why are you? Don't. It's just a house, dude. Either way, he sees Stevens, who's standing there. He gets like a trash can lid and a piece of wood, and there's like a shed, and the door is open. Hence the title, Shed No Fear. And he goes, ah! And he charges into the shed, and the door slams, and I go, what?
And then, okay, so then, Nerdy Kid is like, oh my gosh, okay, well, that was weird. I'm going to go follow him. So he goes into the shed, and he looks around, and he's like, Stevens, where you at, man? Stevens, you in here? Dave, where are you?
Yeah, at this point, I believe he starts calling him Dave.
And, he starts looking at all this old stuff, and he's like, saying like, okay, and it's like weird because they're definitely trying to like we know that it's an episode of Creeped Out. We know that something spooky is about to happen, but Dave doesn't. His friend just yelled and went into a shed, and you've probably been into a shed before at some point in your middle school life. So yeah, I don't know why you're freaked out so much already. Nothing happened yet.
Yeah, it's like the way the scene kind of plays out makes it's almost like the character had dialogue written in the script, and what was written in the script was maybe something like they had the phrase in the script. This is like a rough draft, and it says character says something like, and then lists a couple phrases, and then they just went, yeah, let's just use that. That's like the rough draft version. Let's just use it. Because they don't have anything interesting for him to say. Instead, he just repeatedly says very corny, cliche things like, all right, calm down. He's like talking to himself out loud. He says a lot during this, oh, I'm so spooked because a shed is dark.
Yeah,
thing.
like at one point he sees like,
and he's like, he sees like a painting of an old man, and he's like, oh my gosh, it's just a painting of a very creepy old man.
But then but then he also does that thing where he's like, oh gosh, I hope I'm not the only one scared. Please don't answer that. Don't talk. Like, don't answer me. Just
stop. This is so annoying.
It goes, and it's so funny because this episode is so weird because like all these episodes, it's like 20 minutes, and up to this point, it's been kind of moving along, but him first getting into the shed takes like 20,000 years. So, finally, he touches something, and...
Yeah, he like pushes the painting or whatever, and then you hear like a monster sound, and he goes, and then, what, he gets,
and then there's like
swooshed?
He gets swooshed. And so here's the tea. Well, hold on. Okay, so he winds up going through this weird portal, and he lands in a pool in an abandoned motel in the
It's
middle of
worth
town.
okay. So that I was definitely expecting you to transition more into this because it's a very strange turn of events.
Okay.
I mean, like he gets swooshed, and then we see like a shot of the sky, and we see very very bad CGI.
It's
Of
like a tear in the world.
A tear in the universe, or like a wormhole opening up, and he goes and he falls out of it, and he lands, like you said, in a pool, which is apparently the pool for an abandoned motel. We say it's abandoned because we don't see anybody else there, and also the place looks kind of like run down. There's some vines growing on the building, and also the pool is full of both water and also like dead leaves and like random debris. And at this point I would say somebody needs to do something about this pool. Right?
Yeah.
Like at least try to drain it.
Yeah.
Because like this is it's a body of still water. Like that is a breeding ground for like amoeba and like mosquitoes and like disease vectors. Like that's super unsanitary. Even in the 70s everybody would have known that.
Yeah.
But they just leave it, and this kid just dunks into it.
So he walks all the way back to hat. Okay.
Hang on. He gets out of the pool and he finds the hat. He finds Stevens' hat. And he goes, Stevens! And then I guess he just knows where he is because he runs back to the house that he followed Stevens to. And like when he came through the portal, I thought this was going to be a thing. The first time I saw this, I thought this was going to be a thing like in Stranger Things where they go to the Upside Down and it's like he's in another universe. But no, he just gets teleported to the pool. Like it's still on the same universe. He's just at the pool now.
So he goes back to the shed, and Stevens is there, and he goes up to him. He's like, "Here's your hat, man." And Stevens looks at him like we all would be in this situation, just like, "Okay, thanks. A, why are you following me? 2, clearly you know what's going on, so why are you talking at a normal volume? 3, what are you doing here?" Which is basically the first question, but still.
A2-3. But okay, this was my second major problem with this because Nerdy Kid is standing there and he hands him his hat and he says, "Here's your hat, Stevens." Stevens goes, "Hey, shh, don't move. Just be quiet." And our main character starts like moving his arms around and he's just like, "Why? What's going on?" at like full volume. And I'm like, why does this happen in fiction? Why? It doesn't really happen in books so much, but it definitely happens in TV shows where one character is crouched low, being very stealthy, and he says, "Shh, hey, keep it down." And you don't know why he's asking you to keep it down yet, but instead of going, "Okay, what's the deal? Why are we whispering?" Which is what normal humans do in real life, instead, our main character waves his arms around like he's trying to get killed and shouting, "What's going on? Why would I whisper right now? Like, what are you doing?"
And it's like, because here's the thing. Like, because he's, I guess, so excited because he's like, what you've stumbled upon is an amazing scientific discovery.
You're still saying that at, like, sort of a low volume? He says it at full volume.
Yeah.
After he's told to keep it down.
Yeah. So then, like, but anyway, he won't
He's
shush.
Like, "Wow, this is a wormhole or a dimensional rift. I can't believe you found this." And then David's like, "Just get the heck out of here. You're only gonna make it upset." Yeah. Which is like, what do you mean? What, you're gonna make it upset? And of course the kid says at full volume, "It? What do you mean by it?"
And then we hear a grrr again, and he's like, "That's not a wormhole." And then, because he wouldn't listen, they get zapped back to the pool. Or again to the pool, and then they walk back home, and they go not to the shed this time. Now they go to this table, and they have a seat,
which is like just outside the shed.
Yeah, which is perfect timing because the kid Stevens' aunt Abigail comes out with cookies.
Hang on. I gotta pause you real quick. Nerdy Kid asks him, what are you doing? Why, why are you going into the shed? And he says, I have to get rid of this thing. And
right.
at this point, I asked aloud while watching the episode, why do you have to get rid of this thing? And then the show actually does answer this, kind of, because his aunt comes out.
Yeah, and she has lemonade and chocolate chip cookies for them.
And she says, oh, thanks for trying to clear out the junk in the shed. And, explains that the grandfather left it. It doesn't matter. It's his job to clear out the shed. But, at this point, I asked Zax, what's the plan? Because, from what I understand, from what I've seen, Dave, has literally walked into the shed. First time we saw him, he storms into the shed with a shield and a sword, and then gets teleported. And the second time, he was just crouched in a corner doing nothing, and then he gets teleported. And he's like, I'm going to keep going in there until I get rid of it.
Yeah.
Have you tried getting rid of it? Because right now, all you're doing is getting teleported.
Yeah. I think what's also funny, too, though, is, that there's some sense of urgency in clearing out the shed, but at the same time, the way he says it is pretty cash. It's not the fact that there's this portal monster in the shed. It's I just don't want my aunt to get zapped into the middle of town every time she wants to go in the shed. Which is
this is exactly, this was a thing that I had a conversation with Rogue about TV shows. This was a little while ago. She had made the comment. This will circle back on Creeped Out. She had made the comment that I think, I don't remember what show it was. She was trying to show me some show, and I said I'm not really buying it. I'm not really enjoying it. And she said, I get the vibe that you don't like animation. And I disagreed with her strongly. And I said, no. I don't have a problem with animation. I like animated shows, right? The thing is, I don't care for children's shows most of the time, because children's shows have no stakes most of the time. And I would contrast something like Miraculous, where at the end of the episode everything goes back to status quo, basically every time, with a show like Courage the Cowardly Dog, where although the episodes don't have a ton of continuity between them, in the episode, Courage could really lose the people he loves. They could die, or they could get kidnapped, and that's important to him, and that creates stakes. Circling back to Creeped Out, every other episode of this has had some stakes, but this one in particular has no apparent stakes. Because, if teleporting you did anything risky to you, other than dunking you into probably a disease-infested pond of water, there would be maybe some stakes. But even if his aunt stumbled into this monster and got teleported, she'd just walk back home.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I guess this is another thing, too, that, a lot of, because I know why this started whenever this trope started, the reason, I want to dig deeper in this in another video, but, kids can never tell adults anything. And I understand that it's because, we don't want kids to feel like they need adults for everything, but,
well, that's not the only reason why you would do that in a kid's show. It's also so that adults don't take the reins. You want a kid's show to have a bunch of kid heroes that the kids can identify with, instead of it being oh, don't worry, I'll just get my dad to take care of it, and then dad becomes the hero of the episode.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant. I just said it in less words. Okay. So,
you didn't say that at all.
I said, yeah, so, you don't need adults to do everything. The kids don't need adults. I don't see the difference.
You didn't say that the first time.
What did I say?
It doesn't matter. Continue.
Okay. Anyway. Always corrected me. Okay.
It's because you're always wrong.
Anyway. So what I was saying was, oh gosh, now I'm all discombobulated. Always bad. Okay, so I get that. But, like, this is the kind of thing where because there are no stakes and because it's like whatever, like, this just seems like the kind of thing, like, literally you could pass this off to adults because it's just not that interesting.
It's really not that interesting.
And, like, the rest of the episode, get nothing happens. Okay, so basically, uh they go to get portaled again, and he has like a hat with a strap on it, and they attach a camera, so he wants to
Wait,
take a
what?
picture of the monster.
Oh, right, yeah.
And they get portaled back, and he sort of gets it, and
And he's like, I'm
somehow
gonna go develop these photos.
I don't know what's more unrealistic to me. In cat food, where he was able to Google,
The Coca-Can immediately.
but yeah, what was it? Like cat
Engine.
food monster or
Yeah,
something?
cat food monster.
I don't know
He
if-
engines it.
Yeah. Or this kid who, in the whole library, somehow knew which book to find that would let them know that this portal monster is like made of shadows and can't survive.
I don't. Do
in
they
the
even get a good
light.
look at what the monster is? Like, I didn't get a good look at what the monster was, really.
Okay, so the camera, when they get teleported back into the pool, gets fully submerged in water, and somehow he revives the film and he shows it to Dave the next day.
Yeah, I don't know enough about developing film to know whether that's really
I mean,
doable. But, like, I think it might be.
But, like, I feel like no, because even, like, today when people have their red rooms, if you, like, open the door for a second, they're like, no.
Yeah, that's because light is the problem, but water is not the problem.
But they're still outside, so isn't there, like, some sort of exposure? Because
Yeah, but the camera has a film inside it in a very dark area. It's locked away in a place where light's not supposed to get in. But it's not watertight.
Okay.
So I'm guessing the film would be fine, but the camera would be ruined.
Okay. Well,
That would be my guess. Can we rewind a second? Because I was talking about the fact that the show has no stakes here, and I did want to mention something that you did briefly bring up, and then I wanted to get to that other thing, and then we moved on. His aunt Abigail steps out, and she's the one who asked him to clear out the shed, and she says, "Who wants some lemonade and cookies?" Which I don't know how she knew there were two of them, because they're both supposed to be in school right now. Right? Like, they both ditched school to do this. So I don't know why she knows to bring anyone lemonade and cookies, but she has 2 cups of lemonade and cookies. And I'm like, okay, so somehow she magically knows to bring 2 cups. But more crazy to me is that she's combined the flavor profiles of lemonade and cookies. Chocolate chip cookies. Just in your mind, imagine the flavor of chocolate chip cookies, and now imagine washing that down with a cup of lemonade, and you will see my problem.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Before we jump to where we were, I just want to also remind everybody that they teleported to the center of town 4 times, and Dirty Kid is still using the bathroom as far as his class is concerned.
Yeah, the teacher, that's what I meant. The teacher, he says, "Hey, can I go to the bathroom?" and is never seen again.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, okay, when they're looking up at the school library, and the football kids come in, and they're like, they don't even mention, like, hey, you lame-o, you didn't come back to They don't mention anything like it. They just want Stevens to go hang out with them, and he's like, no, I'm going to hang out with a nerdy kid. Here's something else that it happens, like, in a few scenes that they're together, and I'm like, nerdy kid, this is exactly why you lost him in the first place. Quit it. But he says something like, wow, it's, like, cool to see you, like, think about someone other than yourself. And then Steven says, oh, well, how could you just, like, abandon somebody you care about? And it's like, well, you abandoned me for the football people. But like, okay, but at first we're supposed to feel bad, but then the more we see the two of them together, he's really condescending.
Like
Like,
he's so wrong about so many things, and he's so bad at reading the room,
and like,
and
okay,
he's such a jerk, and yet somehow he manages to be so condescending to Stevens, who's the only one who's even making an effort.
yeah, like, okay, like I mentioned how they take a picture of the portal monster, whatever it is, and we see that, and he literally tells him like, okay, now hold this strap open like so. Like, you could just say, hey, help me, I want to get this camera into the hat so we can like use it. And like,
Yeah, and like it's one of those things where like he's like, "Hey, wait, what are you doing?" And he says, "You'll see." And I'm like,
and then also,
"Okay, I know that we, the audience, you might want to surprise us, the audience, by what's going on, but he's with you in universe, so like maybe let him help you, let him in on the plan."
yeah,
I don't like. That's such BS. Either way, this monster is a shade.
Oh,
by the way,
is it what?
a shade.
Oh, that's what it's called. Okay.
It's made of shadows.
Yeah. So the plan is basically they go to the shed and somehow they rig all this light stuff. And
Yeah, they basically get a bunch of light bulbs and a disco ball, and they have them pointed at.
and they have it all
the disco ball.
tied together so that when they get portal, there's still like a string that's connected to the thing, and so they work together to pull it through the portal.
I mean, you're
to the
skipping through
shed.
this final battle so fast.
I mean,
There's not a lot to say, but I mean, you just summed it up in a single sentence.
okay, you want to take a stab at it?
No. Okay, yeah, fine. I'll give you like an extra sentence. They assemble this device. They put it in the shed, and like a nerdy kid is talking to Dave, and Dave is like, "But what if he just portals us again?" And he says, "That's the plan." And it's like, that doesn't explain anything. And so they go in there. They get portaled by this thing after Dave is distracting it. But I'm like, why do you need to distract it? It won't portal you unless you touch stuff. You established that earlier in the episode. So instead, you could just set up the device and hang out and just wait until you're ready. You don't need to distract it or anything. But either way, they distract it, and then he's like, all right, let's go. They touch some stuff, the thing portals them, and now their string, I don't know how, like, I don't think it really makes a lot of sense that the string goes cleanly through the portal. Because, like, they get dropped out of a portal, but who's to say that they... it doesn't matter. Anyways, the string they're sitting in the pool now, and they've got the string, and it's like a piece of twine, and he's like, it's not pulling. It must be stuck on something. And then Dave is like, it's gonna break. And then the other kid's like, it can't break. If it breaks, it can't break. There's no way. And I'm like, who cares if it breaks? It's not like it's the only twine in the world. Just do it again. Again, this is what I mean by there's no stakes.
Yeah.
If you don't solve the problem this time, you get another go.
Well, yeah.
The only thing you lost was like an hour of your life.
Something they could have done that would have, I guess, made sort of stake. Okay, because here's something that happened a little bit ago. That's like not a huge thing, but just as far as stakes is that they made a big deal that like Aunt Abigail doesn't know about the monster in the shed.
Yeah.
So maybe if she was like, "Oh, I'm so glad you've been cleaning up, but you know what? Starting tomorrow, I'm gonna help you," and he's like, "No, you don't have to do that. I don't want to hear it. I'm helping."
See, that would give a tiny bit of stakes. Here's another thing they could have done. This is something I'm just thinking this off the top of my dome. How did you know that this thing was gonna do? Like, how did you know there was a monster in the shed? Well, my cat wandered in there, and then I heard cats screaming and now it's gone and I don't know what happened to it. And it's like, okay, so it sounds like something bad happened to your cat. And then at the end of the episode, they manage to get teleported for the first time. We never see them get teleported before this in my fictionalized version of this episode. And they find the cat and it's like, oh, so it teleports you. It doesn't kill you, but it does teleport you, which is inconvenient. But at least for the entire episode to that point, we would all go, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's bad.
Yeah, we don't have a kitty right now, yeah.
We don't have the kitty. Something terrible could have happened to us if we get caught by the monster. And then much tension happens when the monster comes and actually catches the kids. And then it's like, okay, well, they defeat the monster, and so everything's fine. But also they find their kitty back, and it's just a feel-good ending. That's what they could have done. Instead, they went with this zero stakes thing where they just keep going through the portal and nothing bad happens to them other than they smell kind of bad.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even like, I mean, which is sad that a SpongeBob episode had more stakes because they smelled bad in one episode and literally everybody shunned them. Like,
and see, like, that again, SpongeBob's a good show for this kind of thing. At least some episodes had actual sort of stakes.
Like, that was a problem. Like,
yeah, like, you couldn't just ignore it and then everything would just be fine.
Yeah, like, if that's an option, there are no stakes. But,
either way, they destroy the monster. It goes, ah, and then, like, there's some disco music playing. The thing that this twine was caught on was, like, a radio that was, like, somehow the twine got wrapped around a single play button on this tape player, and I'm like, this is just dumb. He pulls the thing, the radio plays, the lights turn on, the monster is destroyed by the power of disco, and the disco ball, after everything happens, after the monster is defeated, then the disco ball falls through the portal into the pool with next to them, and they go, yeah, we did it, yeah. And then the nerdy kid is just like, I'm just gonna lay here. And I'm like, that would kind of make sense if what you did was hard.
yeah.
Like, if you're just like, I know this pool is full of filth, but I'm just gonna lay here because it was such a stressful situation that I just need to relax, and even laying in this filth is more relaxing than what was just happening. But what you did wasn't difficult, and you had an infinite number of tries.
Yeah, So
it's really, really fundamental to this episode that there are no stakes, and therefore the episode is just bad.
Yeah, so...
Anyways, they go back to the house, and Abigail... I think it transitions, and, like, it fades to black, fades back in. Now they're actually clearing out the shed. They're taking stuff out of the shed. I have no idea why. Like, I don't know what she needed them to do with... Like, they're just moving it outside. So, if it rains, I guess everything gets ruined. That's the whole point of a shed. It's storage. But either way... Aunt Abigail says, like, oh, well, you guys did such a good job with the shed. I actually have one other thing I could use help with. And they're like, oh, what is it? And they look at each other like, oh, no. And I'm like, you know she didn't know there was a monster in there, right? Like, no matter what she asks you to do, my money's on there's not a monster. Like, she probably just has some innocuous thing to ask you.
Yeah.
Unless she's haunted by hundreds of monsters in every corner of her life.
Well, I mean, at least on this property from the old granddad, because she was like, oh, if you thought he was hoarding in the shed, wait till you see what he did to the basement.
I guess. So she says, I need you guys to clear out the basement as well. And there's like the two, I've never seen this in real life, but it's like a cellar door on the outside that leads straight to the basement. Mm-hmm. And they open them up, and that's the shot you see in the thumbnail of this video, where they're looking in, and then you hear a monster's roar, and they go, ah, and they slam the door shut. And that's where we cut to the Curious, who is wandering into this abandoned motel, and he collects the disco ball, and the narrator is, like, saying something spooky, and then the music cuts from the spooky music to, like, goofy disco music, and the Curious does a little disco dance, and it's so funny. Can you hear how much I'm laughing about it.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It was. I mean, one thing I will say.
Like, ow, I've hurt myself. I've got a stitch in my side. It's so funny that the Curious does a little disco dance. Because, get it? The Curious is spooky, but disco's not spooky. And so doing a disco dance is funny.
Yes.
This is the worst episode of the show so far.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement.
Easily the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah, I guess that's at the bottom for me too. I've shown this to multiple people, and a lot of times the first few times I watched it with some friends, and we were just confused. We were like,
it's not even like it's a confusing episode. Like, it's easy enough to follow.
I guess
it's just boring and dumb.
The first few times I watched it, we kind of just got stuck on, like, we couldn't believe that the stakes were this low. Like, not that it's so unrealistic, but it's just like, I just don't want my aunt to get, like, poured in the middle of town. And I'm like, wait, what? What? Okay.
Yeah, it's really, like, the stakes are so low.
So I don't think that our top 3 have changed. But we both agree that this is at our bottom. And the next episode is kind of an interesting take on some things. It's called The Call. So we will dive into that next time. Yeah, okay. So thank you guys so much for listening. And remember to like and subscribe. Bye.
Bye-bye.